Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel and another true crime story with me, Normandi. Today I'm going to stay a little bit closer to home and I'm going to tell you another true crime story about South Africa, or a crime that happened in South Africa. Today we are going to talk a little bit more about Oscar Pistorius, also known as the Blade Runner. I really feel that often South African cases don't get enough attention. So that's why in the next couple of weeks I'm going to try and focus on true South African cases. Because when you research them, you often find them in Afrikaans. And obviously that's not a language that everybody around the world speaks. But for me, that's my first language and I can easily tell you those stories. So if you want to hear more about South African crimes, please stick around. I also just want to mention that as per usual, all my information comes straight from the internet. Every fact that I give you, I get from the internet. As with the Oscar Pistorius trial that we're going to talk about now, that was a trial that was more than 6 months long. So it's impossible for me to tell you each and every little detail about this, but there's plenty to find on the internet. Now, Oscar Pistorius, if you are a sports fan at all, or if you've ever watched the Olympic Games, the chances are that you've heard his name more than a couple of times. Oscar Pistorius was in the prime of his career when tragedy struck. That night, Oscar shot and killed his model girlfriend Riva Steenkamp in his house through a locked bathroom door, and just like that, the world as he knew it ended. Oscar was born on the 22nd of November 1986 in Johannesburg to parents Henke and Sheila Pistorius. Oscar was born with fibular hemimelia. Now this means that he didn't have a fibula in either of his legs, and by the time he was 11 months old, his parents decided to have his legs amputated below the knees. Oscar grew up in a happy, normal, healthy home where he never wanted for anything. He grew up as a privileged boy. He also had 2 siblings, an older brother and a younger sister, and he had a great relationship with both of them. Sheila, Oscar's mother, was his biggest supporter. She always encouraged him to take part in anything he wanted to, anything he set his mind to. She encouraged him to take part in sports and to never give up or let his disability get in his way. Then on the 6th of March 2002, when Oscar was only 15 years old, his mother passed away. This left a huge impact on his life. Like, as I said before, his mother was his biggest supporter and now she was just gone. He went to the boarding school of Pretoria Boys High School, where he absolutely thrived. He put all of his time and effort into his athletics, and it soon became clear that this boy was a rising star. During his career, Oscar took part in the 100-meter, 200-meter and 400-meter sprints, where he set various world records and he won 23 gold medals in total. In 2012, Oscar became the first double amputee to take part in the normal Olympic Games, not the Paralympic Games. He really overcame all of the hurdles in his life. He was at the top of his game, both mentally and physically. Oscar became a world icon. He thrived. The world placed him on a throne, and he was advertised as being almost a supernatural human being, a bionic creature, able to do anything. Now let's talk about Riva Steenkamp. Riva was born on the 19th of August 1983 in Cape Town to parents June and Barry Steenkamp. The Steenkamp soon relocated to Port Elizabeth, and Riva grew up there as an only child. Riva's father Barry was involved in the horse racing industry, but they never had a lavish lifestyle, and it's said that they often struggled to make ends meet. Despite their struggles, Riva did go on to go and study law after school. She obtained her degree and started working in the industry, but because of her really good looks, modeling was always an option for Riva. And by the time Riva met Oscar, she's already made great strides in her career, even being featured on FHM Front Cover, that's a popular men's magazine in South Africa. Oscar and Riva did have some mutual friends, and it was one of these mutual friends, Justin, that suggested that Riva go to an awards evening, one of Oscar's sports awards evenings, with him, as he didn't have a date for that specific evening. This really would be beneficial for both of them because Oscar would have a beautiful girl by his side, and Riva's modeling agency was really trying to get her noticed. So going with Oscar and being on his arm and in front of the cameras the whole night would really be beneficial for her. So although the two was set up, they really enjoyed the evening. They spent the night in front of the cameras with plenty of curious eyes on them, wondering who this new girl was. And at the end of the day, they just made a connection, and the rest is history. They started dating after that. The next couple of days, the two saw each other every day. They went on coffee dates and had dinner and just spent time together before Riva had to leave to go and film a new reality show that she was featured in named Tropical Island. When Riva returned, the relationship continued and the two saw each other often. And as with most couples on Valentine's Day, they were planning to spend Valentine's Day 2013 together. On the 13th of February that afternoon, Riva was caught on CCTV camera as she was entering into the affluent housing estate where Oscar Pistorius stayed in Pretoria. She was on her way to his house. Oscar was seen arriving at the estate about 10 minutes later, and his white BMW also heading home. So I think it's safe to say that the relationship was at such a point that it didn't matter who arrived at the house first, and it could be presumed that Riva did have a key to his house and the security knew her because they didn't try and stop her when she tried to enter without Oscar being at home. According to Oscar, the two of them had a nice, quiet and relaxed evening at home. They had dinner, and by the time it was 10 o'clock, they were both in the bedroom. Riva was doing some yoga while Oscar was lying in bed watching TV. When she was done exercising, Riva got into bed with him and they both fell asleep. Then on the 14th of February 2013, not only South Africa but the world woke to the news that the Blade Runner Oscar Pistorius shot and killed his girlfriend Riva Steenkamp in his home in Pretoria in the early morning hours. Oscar was arrested and he was taken to the Brooklyn police station where he had to spend a couple of days awaiting his bail hearing. Eventually he did go to the bail hearing and he was granted bail as he wasn't seen as a flight risk at that point in time. He was granted bail, and this came at a price of 1 million rand. Now that is approximately 66,000 US dollars. He spent the days after that at his uncle's house in Pretoria as he couldn't go back to his house. It was a crime scene. He could spend his time there preparing and waiting for his trial to start. Now the question on everybody's mind is what really happened that evening. So let's look at what Oscar had to say about it. Oscar said that that night, after they fell asleep, the both of them, he woke up early in the morning hours and he got up to go and close the curtains and bring in the fan from the balcony. I think it was hot and maybe he wanted to bring in the fan to switch it on because the comforter was also lying on the floor at that point in time. Now Oscar wasn't sleeping on his usual spot where he would usually sleep closest to the window. Riva slept there. He got up and he went to go and get the fan, and as he was coming in from getting the fan outside, he heard a noise in the bathroom. So he instinctively thought that somebody broke into the house and they came through the bathroom window, and he thought somebody was in the bathroom. He grabbed his 9mm pistol that he kept underneath his bed and he headed towards the bathroom. At this point, Oscar wasn't wearing his prosthetic legs, and he went just like that to the bathroom, and inside the bathroom there's a separate cubicle with a toilet inside that also had a door. The door was closed and he could hear somebody was behind this door. He shouted at them to leave and get out of his house. He also called to Riva to call the police, but he couldn't hear anything in return. He got scared and said he felt that he and Riva was in danger. So at that point he shot at the door 4 times. He then ran back to the bedroom to go and check on Riva, and he saw that Riva wasn't there. It is at this point that he said he started to realize that maybe it was Riva inside the cubicle. He grabbed a cricket bat that was close by, and he ran back to the bathroom and started hitting this door and breaking it down. Eventually, he broke the door down and got into the cubicle and found Reva wedged between the toilet and a magazine rack that was standing right next to it. Oscar then picked her up and carried her downstairs, and this was maybe to try and find some help, but he picked her up from the bathroom floor and carried her down the stairs towards his front door, and that is eventually where police and everybody else found Reva lying just inside the front door as you came into his house. Now, it's still unclear when during this whole incident Oscar put on his prosthetic legs, and I think it would take quite a bit of time to put them on, and this was a huge controversial thing during the trial as well, because there was never any precise mention about when he put on his prosthetic legs. But by the time that police got there, he was wearing them and they were covered in blood. Oscar's neighbor was the first person to arrive at the house as well. He was a doctor and Oscar did call him, but he was on his way there already as he heard the shots a couple of moments earlier and headed over there. He tried to do everything he could for Reva, but he said that she was dead when he arrived there already, and there was really nothing that he could do to save her life. When police arrived there, they found Reva at the bottom of the stairs where Oscar had placed her, and there was a pool of blood around her. They also found some garbage bags close to her body, and initially this looked very suspect as they were wondering what Oscar wanted to do with the plastic bags, if he wanted to clean up the crime scene and get rid of some evidence. But later it was cleared up that he was trying to use these plastic bags as a way of trying to stop the blood like you do with towels, and so that was used to try and control the bleeding. Police then later questioned and took pictures of Oscar in his garage where he was sitting on a gym bench. He was covered in blood, although his hands was clean. He told police that he had to wash his hands because there was blood everywhere. This was evident when looking at the crime scene. You could see the blood from the bathroom. There was a pool of blood around the toilet, right through his bedroom and down the stairs, and Reva was lying in the pool of blood as well, and the blood was all over the walls next to the stairs as he was carrying her down the stairs. And that was the last South Africa heard about the story, was his bail statements. Since then, like I said, he lived with his uncle in Pretoria and his house was sold. He had to eventually sell the house to pay for his enormous legal costs. Oscar's trial started more than a year after the murder. It started on the 3rd of March 2014 in the Pretoria High Court in front of Judge Thokozile Matilda Masipa. Now, South Africa doesn't have a jury system, so Oscar's fate was totally left in the hands of Judge Masipa. Oscar himself was represented by advocate Barry Rue, and this was a really good choice for him at that point in time. But nobody could foresee the terror that came with the questions and accusations of the state prosecutor Harry Nel. He really was relentless in this case, and it definitely clarified why he is known as the bull terrier in the law industry. This man really kept the whole of the world on the edge of their seats while we were all able to follow the trial live every day. His questioning and persistence caused Oscar to break down a couple of times while delivering his testimony. He even had Oscar confess in the words, saying that yes, he killed Reva Steenkamp and he must take responsibility for doing that. But to this day, Oscar still maintains that it was an accident and he didn't murder her.
Statement, Nel started his cross-examination with a powerful declaration.
You made a mistake.
That's correct.
You killed a person, that's what you did, isn't it?
I made a mistake.
You killed Reva Steenkamp, that's what you did.
I made a mistake, my lady.
You're repeating it 3 times. What was your mistake?
My mistake is that I took Reva's life, my lady.
You killed her, you shot and killed her.
After some deliberation, Nel was allowed to show a video of Pistorius at a shooting range firing at a watermelon.
What we can see there is the effect the ammunition had on a watermelon. It exploded. Am I right?
That's correct, my lady.
You know that the same happened to Reva's head. It exploded. Have a look.
Nell suddenly showed a graphic photo of Steenkamp's head wound, eliciting an emotional response from Pistorius.
That's it. Have a look there, mister. I know you don't want to because you don't want to take responsibility, but it's time that you look at it.
As I picked Reva up, my fingers touched her head. I remember. I don't have to look at a picture. I was there.
Pistorius sobbed uncontrollably and court was adjourned. When court resumed, Nell went on to question Pistorius about the night of the shooting, interrogating him robustly on several occasions, living up to his nickname of the Bull Terrier.
The trial itself lasted for months, and various professionals was questioned, also family members, friends, and character witnesses. Oscar himself spent nearly a week on the witness bench. Gerrie Nel asked the questions that the world was asking and the world wanted answers to. Everybody was waiting for his testimony to find out exactly what happened on that evening. Gerrie Nel wanted to know if they had a fight on that evening, if they had an argument, and maybe Reva locked herself in the bathroom to get away from him and he lost his temper and maybe shot her, because some of the neighbors did hear arguments and shouting earlier that evening. But these neighbors were further away from Oscar, and the neighbors that actually stayed closer to him said they didn't hear anything except later on when they heard the gunshots. He wanted to know why Reva was scared of Oscar, because during the court trial there were many WhatsApp messages shown to the judge where between Reva and Oscar, where Reva actually said that she was scared of him sometimes and the way he could snap at her. Gerrie also wanted to know why Oscar never noticed that Reva wasn't in bed when he went right around the bed to the balcony to go and get the fan. He also wanted to know why Reva would have a cell phone with her in the toilet cubicle at that time of the morning, and why she felt the need to lock herself in the bathroom if she only went for a toilet break. One of the biggest points that Gerrie also hammered on during this trial is that one of the professional witnesses or testimonies that came from a professional said that the food that was in Reva's stomach couldn't have been there for more than a couple of hours, at say 2 hours. So that didn't make sense if Oscar said that they had dinner early the previous night already. Furthermore, he also argued that Oscar knew that he was going to kill whoever was on the other side of that closed door if he shot at the door. And in South Africa, it's illegal to shoot at somebody if your life is not in direct danger. So a closed door between him and the intruders, even if he thought that it was intruders in the house, would be illegal, knowing that he would kill them. If somebody doesn't point a gun to you directly, or they are not coming towards you, you're not allowed to shoot them. So if they're running away from you, you can't shoot somebody in their back because your life was not in danger at that point. It was a packed courtroom on the 11th of September 2014 as the world awaited the verdict of the Oscar Pistorius trial. In the next room, there was an overflowing courtroom for the media representatives as they were waiting to get it all on camera. Judge Masipa dismissed a lot of the state's circumstantial evidence, and she also said that Oscar was a very poor witness. And she said that the state couldn't prove beyond reasonable doubt that this was premeditated murder. However, Judge Masipa did say that a reasonable person put in the same circumstances would be able to foresee that they will kill whoever is behind that door if they did shoot a gun. So Judge Masipa cleared Oscar of murder, and instead she convicted him of culpable homicide. So in the United States, that would be known as manslaughter. Oscar was then, the court adjourned until the 13th of October, and his bail was extended until that time. There was total outrage after this. The social media messages was very critical towards Judge Masipa, and she had to, from the beginning of the trial, she was given police protection, but after the verdict, she was threatened with personal attacks and very personal messages as well, and she was actually in danger after her verdict because the media and the public didn't agree with her verdict. Then after that verdict, Judge Masipa gave Oscar a prison sentence of only 5 years. Then on the 12th of August 2015, after serving only 10 months of those 5 years, Oscar was let out on terms of good behavior, and he was no longer a threat to the community. He was able to spend his time at his uncle's house, still under house arrest, and he was still under supervision of correctional services. But prosecutors already put in an appeal against the sentencing and the verdict that Judge Masipa gave on the 27th of October 2014, saying that Judge Masipa misinterpreted the law by saying that Oscar didn't shoot Riva Steenkamp intentionally. And on the 22nd of September 2015, shortly after Oscar was released, the Supreme Court of Appeal did say that they would hear the case on the 3rd of November 2015. The court overturned the verdict of the trial court, and it was moved from culpable homicide to murder, and this was a decision, a unanimous decision by 5 judges. And on the 6th of July, the very same Judge Masipa sentenced Oscar to an additional 6 years in prison for the murder of Riva Steenkamp, although prosecutors did call for the minimum of 15 years for murder in South Africa. Judge Masipa argued that Oscar already spent 12 months in prison and that he really did show remorse for his killing. The Supreme Court then added another 9 years onto his prison sentence, and this gave him 15 years in total. This was after all the appeals from the prosecution, so Oscar will be eligible for parole in 2023, that's next year. And that was it for the Oscar Pistorius trial. It's impossible to go into all the finer details that was discussed during the 6 months trial that he was on, and you can follow that absolutely anywhere. There's links everywhere on the internet with all the little details that I couldn't put onto one video because it would be really very long. If you're interested to find out more about other South African cases, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate that. Bye.